Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I hope you're having an awesome and amazing day. Hope everybody is having the most wonderful of weeks. Hey, PG Name, good to see you. Good to see you. My day was a bit of a mixed bag, but I came out ahead. I can explain that a little bit. But hey, PG Name, good to see you. Hey, Figment, good morning, all the way into the future. Hey, Sci-Fi, good to see you as well. So I had a lot of trouble sleeping last night. I was having some pretty wicked, horrible dreams where my subconscious was beating me with all of the worst possible weapons. The crazy thing about your brain is that it knows the buttons to push in itself to make you feel bad. And can then, like, bombard you with these things while you sleep. So, yeah, I had some pretty horrible dreams that kept me up for a lot of the night. And I've been kind of floaty feeling all day, not really settled. But I did turn in the last couple of things that I needed to finish the last class that I needed to finish the master's degree that I'm working on. So unless there are some really massive upsets and catastrophically unforeseen occurrences, it seems like I am done with this most recent master's degree, which is a gigantic load off and is a really, really good feeling. So let's cross our fingers that nothing goes off the rails between now and everything with final grades coming in. I don't foresee that being a situation. However, I lived through last year, and I have learned not to take little things for granted. Goal! Indeed. Indeed. So, I had to convince myself to get up and get moving this morning. I was just sort of brain dead, sitting on the couch, staring into the middle of nowhere. And I was like, I need to go get this stuff. It's not even due today; it's due tomorrow. But I'm an overachiever, so I forced myself to get off the couch and get moving. I had some prodding from some friends who were like, "Why don't you just go get it done? Just go get it done." I'm fine. So yeah, so there's that. I'm still pretty tired though. I feel very sleepy and very fuzzy feeling. I could probably use another cup of coffee to get through the stream here, but we're going to just stick with the good old-fashioned high-quality H2O, and we're going to hope that that's enough. If my brain isn't drawing lines very quickly tonight and not connecting things very rapidly, give me a little bit of slack tonight, if you will. I understand that I'm not necessarily the most quick on the uptake sometimes anyway, but I might be a little bit slower than average tonight. You wish you could drink coffee today. It's been a rough 2 days. Figment, well, I hope everything goes all right. And why can't you drink coffee? Are you on some sort of caffeine hiatus, or because coffee is gross? Okay, do you have caffeinated tea? You are in Asia. There should be some form of stimulant that you might be able to obtain. Even if coffee was gross, I would still drink it. You're hooked on Monster now. Oh, no. That's so much worse than coffee. That's so much worse than coffee. Oh, man. Monster is... I've only had maybe 2 or 3 of those my whole life, and I just can't stand them. When my wife was in undergrad, getting her undergrad stuff, she was a big fan of Red Bull. And I can't stand Red Bull either. Like, Red Bull to me tastes like someone like carbonated a sweet tart, and one of the bad ones, like the yellow ones that are just way too tart already. Chocolate, you can do tea, but you can't have my milk tea now because of the milk. What's wrong with the milk? Are you not supposed to have milk? The first time you the first time you had one, your subordinate talked you into it. He was literally falling asleep. Oh wow. I've been there before. I've been to the falling asleep at your desk level. Yeah, it's just it's a weird mixture of I want to spit it out, but yeah. You can't have the dairy or the dairy protein anymore. Oh my goodness, Figment. Well, I could suggest amphetamines, but that's even worse than the alternative. Don't take drugs, kids. A few days later, you're like, I want another one. All right, yeah. So the show is Adventures in History, where we talk about history in a way that is very laid back and fun, and as you can tell from being here right now, pretty lighthearted and goofy. We don't really take ourselves very seriously around here, and that's okay, because learning doesn't have to be like stodgy and horrible and boring and dull and garbagey. It could just be fun, right? I've had an apple this morning. Apples are good for wake-up stuff. Natural sugars can get you going, so hopefully that will kickstart the old awareness meter for you. We'll keep our fingers crossed. I'll try to make random loud noises on stream. Hey! Keep you awake. It's also been really, really hot here. The heat index today was up over 100 all the way from about 8:30 this morning. It has just been really, really hot, and it's going to be really, really hot for the next several days before we get a cool front come through, and then it's going to go back down to the low 90s, which is like 28, 29 Celsius if you're not in the United States. It's been pretty bad, and the humidity is up around 90 to 100%, so it's just like walking through hot soup. So, yeah. So we're talking about history. On the shows, when we get here on Thursday night, we are covering history in chronological order. We are looking at a phase of history right now that is from about the year 100 to about the year 200. So this is the 2nd century, and we are covering world events. We started over here in Asia, and we've moved our way over here to Central Asia. Now we are going to be over here in the Middle East, and we will continue on this way and then end up over in the Americas. Current temperature is 97 F. The heat index is 113. Yeah, there we go. 113. Woohoo. So that's what it feels like outside. It feels like 113 degrees outside, which is about 33 or 34. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty friggin' hot. 100 to 200, the years. So, Shiggy, we are covering history chronologically, and instead of doing everything like 1 year at a time, so like the year 1, and that's a stream, and then year 2, and that's a stream, we're doing things regionally in chunks. So I've chunked things up. So right now we are covering the years about 100 AD or CE, depending on which one you want to use, to about 200 AD or CE, depending on which one you want to use. So the 2nd century of our numbers going up. Also, hey, Shiggy, good to see you. Chronological order. Have we discussed aliens building the pyramids yet? We did talk about the pyramids all the way back in the Old Kingdom of Egypt, and you know, it's really strange. We didn't talk about aliens. It was really weird. Yeah, but no aliens. We actually did not spend an awful lot of time on Egypt. we sort of hit it at an overview. But if somebody wanted to do a deep dive on Egypt stuff, that would actually be a pretty cool request if anybody wanted to throw one of those in. I know that Sci-Fi was actually sort of looking for a potential topic, so if you wanted to pick something like Saqqara, or Old Kingdom temple building or monument building, or Middle Kingdom expansion and solar temple stuff, we could totally do all of that. I would be thrilled to do a deep dive on a specific period of time in Egypt. Saqqara is really, really cool, and I am very jealous that you've been able to go there. Shiggy says, sounds like you are not cut out for the History Channel. No, I am not cut out for the History Channel. I'm cut out for the History Channel maybe when it first started, although I don't talk about World War II enough. So, yeah, I tend to focus on verifiable fact, which I know is something that is just utterly bizarre to some people. I tend to look at things in historical context instead of just going, clearly it's aliens. The old days when it showed architectural videos. Oh, I feel you. Back when the History Channel first came out, it was actually a really, really good channel, and I love the devil out of that. The History Channel should have a show with Shane and I just talking and traveling, and we call it Accurate History. I'd be totally down with that. I would be 100% down with that. That would be an awesome show. Because for those of you that do not know, Figment and I went to grad school together, and we're pretty good friends, and we have a very casual and witty banter between the two of us. And we've traveled, we've been to Jordan on a trip together, and we've been to Turkey on a trip together. So it's been pretty fun. Shane and I, we found a tomb, let's go! Load up! Let's just hope that the tomb is not close to the site of a Bronze Age copper mine, and therefore protected by Jordanian border security. I don't need any more of that in my life. So anyway, yeah, tonight we're talking about Parthia. Parthia is one of the biggest empires of the ancient world. It is going to be super powerful starting all the way back around 242 BC or BCE. And by the time we're talking about tonight, so about 300 years later, things aren't going so great for the Parthians. They are on the way down. The next scene is Shane shaking his head, and I run up a hill and fall over at the top. There's me like, do, and I get up there and I'm like, I'm drinking water, and I'm sitting down and eating jerky, and here comes Figment like, that would be fun. To be fair though, you smoked me at the high place in Petra, but I will say that was mostly because I was lied to. I was lied to about how tall the stairs were at the high place of Petra, and I went up them under the impression that they were about half as high as they actually were. So about halfway through, I was about 3/4 of the way out of breath. By the time I got to the top, I was about to pass out. I was about to die. And I told one of our colleagues that I hated him. Oh, man. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Parthia. So the ancient Parthian Empire, at the time that we are talking, spanned roughly this zone right here. If we are talking modern countries, this is going to be mostly in the modern-day country of Iran and Iraq. It would have controlled what is modern-day Kuwait. I guess I can actually turn on the borders. It's like I've got a magic button that puts borders up. So here is the modern-day country of Iran. It would have had some of this territory here in what is Turkmenistan, because everybody knows where all these stands are, right? This is Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. So would have had some of this territory right here in Turkmenistan. would have had a little bit of this territory here in what is modern-day Azerbaijan and Armenia, and it would have had a little bit of land in what is here modern-day Iraq. Persia, the sequel. This is actually the fourth time that Persia has been the very central part of a stream here. So, oh no! This is the fourth time that the Parthians have been the center of an episode. We've talked about the Achaemenids extensively. Achaemenids were the first Persian empire. That's Cyrus the Great and Xerxes, and this is Sparta and taking over Egypt and all that stuff. That's substantially far back in the 400s and 300s BC. And then we talked a lot about them under the control of the Seleucids, who were the leftovers from Alexander the Great's empire, and then the Parthians when they took over in 242 BC. So Persia, this is like Persia Fast 9 or whatever it is, too Persia, too furious or something like that. Okay, so they had a pretty big chunk of territory. They are sitting at a strategically important location, mostly for this big new trade that we have been discussing that is coming out of India and China through the big Silk Road trade network. Of course, sitting right here at the time was the Kushan Empire, which we talked about last week, who was getting pretty big at it. And of course, over here are the sort of arch nemeses of the Parthians, who were the expanding Romans. The Romans are going to figure pretty heavily into tonight's discussion. So we're going to start by talking about a guy named Pacorus. This is technically Pacorus II, and he is going to be the guy that's ruling when we start talking about this era. He rules from 78 to 110. And this guy was a pretty smart ruler. If we want to look at him, we can do so by looking at one of his coins. Here we are. This is Pacorus. Fairly decent-sized hat. Worthy level decoration, but not super ornate. I'll give him maybe a 6.5 on the hat. He's got a decent beard, fairly well-styled hair. He's an okay-looking guy, I guess, but he's going to be a pretty decent and capable ruler. The problem that he is mostly facing is that he's stuck between these sort of two big expanding empires. He's got the Romans on one side, and he's got the Kushan Empire on the other side. And as they are both expanding, they are sort of putting the squeeze on him. He's no Tsar Nicholas. No, Tsar Nicholas was a pretty handsome guy. So by the time Pacorus comes to the throne, the Kushan Empire was gaining size and coming up in power. By the time we get to the end of Pacorus's rule, the Kushan Empire is going to be about the same level of civilization and power as the Parthians. And what is a guy like Pacorus to do when your border zones, which used to be part of your territory, are now as big of an empire as you? Well, the best thing that you can hope to do is make good alliances and just really hope that those alliances hold out. And that's exactly what Pacorus does. He makes some treaties with the Kushan rulers. There is a Chinese individual running this region right here as a big general called Ban Chao. We mentioned him last week as a sort of emissary of the Han Dynasty. He's going to make some deals with Pacorus. There's a bit of a standing truce over here with Rome that goes back to about 68. It's the end of the first big war that they had. So Rome is expanding, but it's not really taking too much of the Parthians' territory directly. They're sort of gobbling up the little areas right around Parthia. And of course, the sort of thorn in the side of Armenia is this region right here. I'm sorry, Parthia, the thorn in the side of Parthia, was this region right here, which is the ancient region that we call Armenia. And there had been a big kerfuffle between the Romans and the Parthians over who got to control this territory. And the treaty that was signed between the two big empires basically said that Rome got to choose the Armenian king, but they would choose from Parthian royal family members. So basically, Armenia was a client kingdom of Rome, but the people that were going to be ruling Armenia had leanings and family ties back to the Parthians. So this was sort of a way to kind of keep Armenia as a bit of a fulcrum between the two empires without one side getting too much of an upper hand. But both sides very clearly want to control Armenia. They both want the big trade cities that are in Armenia. They both want the natural resources that are there in Armenia. And it's a very strategic location. We've talked about this a few times. It is a key north-south and east-west crossroads. So if you hold this zone right here, you can basically control overland travel from Arabia to Russia and from Asia to Africa over here to Europe. So you want this area to be on your side. And Pacorus is going to recognize that he can't get Armenia, so that situation is basically going to be left in limbo. And Pacorus's real, I guess, job was to try to make these treaties, which he did, and then try to keep the kingdom as peaceful as possible, which he's going to try to do by choosing one of his sons very early on. One of the problems that had happened quite frequently inside of the Parthian noble family, the Arsacid royal family, is that there were not really clear lines as to who got to take over. Sometimes it would go from father to son, other times it would go from brother to brother, and sometimes even from nephew to uncle, depending on how the thing shook out. And that had caused a lot of consternation and had caused a lot of people to fight, especially amongst themselves. So Pacorus is going to say, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to choose my son, who's this kid named Volgasses, and I'm going to make him my co-emperor. So that way he's going to get to rule for a while I'm still alive. Everybody's going to get used to seeing him do things on the throne and do things in public and so on, and people are going to get the idea of him being emperor. So then when I die, everything will be great. I guess I should go ahead and warn you, it doesn't really end up that way. We do have Volgasses III, who is this guy. And we can tell just by looking at him, he's not nearly as cool. We've gone downhill on the hat. He's got some little frilly horn here things that are probably Mithraic in nature. But this is way too simple of a hat. This is maybe like a 4.5, 5 hat. His dad had a way cooler hat. But Volgasses, as he is being co-emperor, is going to be challenged. And that's going to happen actually before his dad dies. There's going to be a guy named Osrose, who's Osrose the First, that starts a rebellion. And I guess I should show you Osrose. Now, when we look at Osrose, we're going to have to look at this a little bit differently, and I'll explain why. And we'll even flip back and forth, and I'll give you a little bit of an explanation. So this is Osrose, and you go, well, wait a second, that doesn't look right at all, because we've got this guy and this guy who was Pacorus. That guy kind of looks like this dude. I mean, they're dressed similarly. We've got same sort of corded neck ties here. We've got the same sort of rounded cap. We've got the same kind of beard and rolls of hair in the back. But who is this guy? What the devil is this? This looks way different. Well, there's a reason for that. This is Osrose the First. The reason his coins look so different is because he is going to take about half of the empire for himself, and we're going to enter a really long period of civil war between Volgases III and Osroes I. And you go, well, what does this have anything to do with the coinage, and why does it change? Well, it changes because the region that Osroes is going to take is ancient Mesopotamia, including the ancient city of Babylon and the people that considered themselves still very much Babylonian. So the coin that he makes that portrays himself as a different sort of ruler actually is in a style that is much more akin to older Babylonian rulers. So it's kind of a little bit of propaganda, like, I'm your emperor, look, I'm playing your tune. You can come to my territory and follow me. Don't go to that weird other guy with the really lame hat. Come to see my cool hat, right? So we are in a big war, and this war is going to run for 20 years, from 109 to 129. And it gets pretty bad. Volgases is forced out of the main capital over here at Ctesiphon, and he's forced to move over into these regions which are sort of more Persian. He does have a fairly sizable chunk of territory with trade access and manpower and food, but the real big stuff is still very much over here in Mesopotamia. And holding that area was still very important, both symbolically and for the money, right? It's where all the cool stuff is. It's just really where you want to be if you're the king. So this war is pretty nasty. And it's going to start spilling over into regional areas, especially over here in Armenia. Because Osroes is of the opinion that the Romans were probably weaker than they were appearing, right? Maybe the guy that was ruling at the time in Armenia was the wrong royal family member. The person ruling in Armenia at that time was a family member of Volgases. And Osroes goes, I don't want that guy ruling because he is going to prefer the guy that I'm fighting against, right? So that would put an ally of Volgases and then Osroes and then Volgases himself. So you don't want to get stuck in between bad guys. So he's going to pick a new Armenian king. He's going to go in and invade Armenia, run out the old Arsacid ruler, and put his son on the throne of Armenia. And the kid's name is Parthian, so we won't go all the way through trying to spell out Parthian. But this is like poking the sleeping bear, right? You don't want to make Rome mad at you. But that's what happens. And, well, things go downhill from there. And I get to wear the adventure hat. Dun, 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 dun. For those of you that might be new to the stream, this is the adventure hat. And when I talk about things that I have seen with my own eyeballs or photographs that I have taken when I am out traveling, I get to wear the adventure hat. And we put the super neat and wonderful emotes of the adventure hat in the chat, and I'm not sure exactly why. I can't do my own emotes in my chat right now, but it just doesn't want to let me use my own emotes, which is bizarre. Thanks, OBS. Who honkin' knows what's going on with that? And now I can't even see my chat. Go away, chat. Go. Oh, wait. Did I fix it? No, I didn't fix it. Okay. Where's my chat? Aha, there we go. There we go. The adventure hat. You threw some hats at me for it. Thanks, baby. Hey, Kelly, good to see you. So, yeah. He makes Rome angry. And specifically, he makes this... Well, well, the break screen. He makes the break screen really mad. He makes this guy really mad. This is the Roman Emperor Trajan. I took this photo when we were in the Vatican a few years ago. Oh man, that was longer than I thought it was. Oh, 2020 has just done a number on my time reckoning sense. Anyway, this is a bust of Trajan. Trajan like Trajan's column, correct. So, Trajan comes in, and Trajan is really upset with Osroes, and says, why did you push the Roman chosen leader of Armenia out? And Osroes is like, 'cause I wanted to. 'Cause I'm the man. And Trajan's like, oh no. No, you are not the man at all. So Trajan moves into Armenia, and he does something pretty interesting. He decides, you know what? Let's solve this Armenia problem once and for all. And in 114 AD or CE, whatever you want to use, Trajan just annexes Armenia and says, guess what? You're now part of Rome. Congratulations. You don't get an independent ruler anymore. I say you're part of Rome. And of course, that makes the Parthians a little anxious, because that means now the Parthians and the Romans have a much longer and much more contentious border, and the Romans have control of all of the really good invasion routes. If you wanted to invade Mesopotamia, you invade Mesopotamia from up here. Guess what? That was Armenia. And guess what? That's now in Roman hands. And in fact, Trajan goes, why don't we just go ahead and invade Parthia right now? Why don't we just go wreck their world? And down Mesopotamia comes Trajan. And it gets real bad. It gets pretty bad. He's going to invade Mesopotamia. Yeah, we're already right here. I mean, they can't do anything about it. They're in the middle of a civil war. Half of this guy's army is on the other side of the river fighting against a guy that's probably his cousin. We're already right here. They're defenseless. Why not take their capital cities and wreck their world a little bit? So they do. They move in and they take the two big capital cities that are in Mesopotamia. One of them is called Seleucia, and the other one is called Ctesiphon. And these are really, really ancient cities that had been big administrative capitals for hundreds and hundreds of years. They had never, well, especially Ctesiphon, had not been invaded by a foreign army in centuries. Yet here are the Romans like, hi, we're going to wreck your world and steal all of your stuff and sack your city. Yeah, Osroes is in real bad shape, manages to barely get out with his life, but the Romans kidnap his daughter. And they say, okay, bud, check it out. You are off the throne. And Osroes is like, okay, I'm off the throne. Just don't kill my daughter. What about my son? He was ruling in Parthia. What's up with him? Are you going to kill him because you clearly aren't going to let him rule rule Armenia anymore, because Armenia is now not Armenia. It's just a province of Rome. And Trajan is sort of putting around Mesopotamia for a couple of years, just trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do. And he decides that what he wants to do is put the kid, Parthian on the throne as a client king, right? So basically, we're going to absorb Mesopotamia, and you're going to get to rule it for Rome. You're not going to be independent. You're going to pay tribute to us. You're going to swear fealty to us, and we're going to be the ones doing all of the shot calling around here. This is a bad moment for the Parthians. If we fast forward, if we rewound about 200 years the Parthians were the ones dictating terms to the Romans. And yet now here they are having terms dictated to them by the Romans. Yeah, so in 116, Trajan is going to put Parthomspates on the throne. Osroes is technically no longer in charge, and Trajan is going to start traveling back towards the capital city of Rome. But here's the thing. At this point, in 117 AD, Rome is the biggest that Rome would ever be. They had taken a massive chunk of the Parthian Empire. I can show you. So here we go. This is the greatest extent of Rome. This is an absolutely massive empire. This is, again, after Trajan had conquered the territory held by Osroes. So here's all of Mesopotamia, Armenia, this region here. You could see that this Parthian Empire area here, this would be the area that Volgasses had. You can see Susa, which was one of his capital cities that he was working out of. There's another city right about here called Ecbatana. That was a pretty important city that Volgasses had. But Rome was just absolutely massive at this time. This sounds like the start of Byzantium. So Byzantium was around, it was, if we zoom in here, boom, there's actually the city of Byzantium. At the moment, though, it was a pretty small village. Now, if you're talking about, this is the beginning of an identifiable distinction between what is going to be Eastern Rome and what is Western Rome, you are absolutely correct, Shiggy. There is going to be a pretty clear understanding that, and even as far back as Trajan, that this is where the money is, and this is where the troops are. So the population of this region and the money of this region is significantly higher than the population and the money of this region. And there's a reason why Trajan spends so much time over here in the east. It's because he's building up his war chest and his power and his army, because he's got other problems up here. And if you hang around next time we come to a adventure in history, we'll actually be talking about the Roman Empire and making a little bit more sense of what's going on in the larger scheme of Rome, because they're not necessarily the topic for tonight. They just happen to wreck the Parthians while we were at it. Now, Trajan doesn't actually make it all the way home. Trajan gets about halfway through what is today Turkey to a region right around here called Selinus, and then Trajan dies. This is going to happen in 117, and the subsequent emperor, a guy named Hadrian, is going to have a different approach to things. However, before we move on, I do want to put the adventure hat back on. Because I have been to the place where Trajan died. It is, well, let me get the picture up. Here we are. So this is in Turkey, and this is referred to as the cenotaph of Trajan. So the location where he died, so they built this monument where he died. It's in the middle of a wheat field. You sort of have to park on the road and walk through the wheat field to get there. It's got a little platform on the top of it. I've got about a dozen pictures of this. I might show some more next time when we're talking about Trajan, but I did want to include this because it's just a really neat place. And also one of my favorite photos of myself ever comes from this location. Points if you get the nerd reference here. And you can see here's actually the adventure hat on an adventure. And Figment was with me when we were exploring Selinus. I have some photos of the both of us at this location. So if you get the reference, put something like "I get it" in the chat. Or you could just ask. Yep, that was the gladiator scene. I really like that picture. It's a good picture. Mostly because it doesn't have my ugly mug in it, but also because it's a pretty cool location. It's in the shadow of this really big, beautiful mountain range. It's a really cool place. Hey, Lumpy, good to see you. Also, Sanjuro, good to see you. And Fid, good to see you. Are you not entertained? Is that not why you are here? Friendly Pyro, good to see you, my friend. I hope everything is going well. For those of you... Oh, wow. What's going on here? What's going on here? Okay, so it's just not wanting me to log in here. Okay, give me just a second, because it's trying to make me log into Twitch. And yeah, I'll log in for you. Are you going to be a jerk? And of course I have to do the two-factor authentication. Are you gonna let me in? Can I do the shout out now? Look-a there! Look-a there! Hey, Pyro. I'm doing very well. How are you tonight? Or this afternoon? You can enter your credit card info into chat. So, hello, Friendly Pyro. Hello, Bayou Buckle Bunny. Hello, Tenderos. Hello, Floofy. Good to see all of you. I hope you're all having wonderful, wonderful nights as well, or days, or evenings, or just really wherever you are located. So my name is Shane. I'm a historian. I teach history as a profession in college, and we are currently talking about Parthia. We're in the middle of a big civil war. The Romans just got involved and wrecked a bunch of folks. And we were looking at a picture of me doing an impersonation of the guy from Gladiator in the middle of the wheat field here in Turkey. This, by the way, this building is the location where the Emperor Trajan died. We had just talked about the Emperor Trajan dying. Dun, da, da. You're finally comfy to sleep since your tick is gone. All right. Well, good to see you, Floofy. Hope you have a beautiful, restful sleep. You're doing well. Good day back streaming with some Jackbox. Nice, nice, nice. Yes, the carpal tunnels. I'm glad that all went very well, or at least I hope it went very well, and I hope that you are having a speedy and fast and safe recovery. For all of you that do not know Friendly Pyro, you should totally go check out their stream. Friendly Pyro is an artist of multiple different types. Sometimes does fantasy maps, sometimes does painting, sometimes does gaming. And has a lovely group of friends that are really great to hang out with and fun to chat with. Always welcome and happy to see them in the room with us. So please do go give Friendly Pyro a follow. Went very well. Good, good, good. Ended early. Well, yeah, I suspect so. If you're still getting over surgery and there's all the sleepy stuff and the medication stuff, then I'm with you. I'm with you. If you're super bugged out and tired, don't feel free to leave. Feel free to leave or lurk or do whatever makes you most comfortable. So the show here is Adventures in History. We talk about historical stuff from a fun point of view and a really laid-back atmosphere. We make bad jokes and we talk about poop and all the weird things in history that nobody mentions that I think are really fun. Don't feel free. I also have not had a lot of sleep. Last night was pretty rough on me, so my brain is running faster than my mouth can catch up, which is usually the way that it is, but it's almost like I'm sort of doing that thing in most periods of time where I'm almost falling but not quite falling. Tonight I'm just falling. So we're talking about the Parthian Empire, which controlled at this particular time not very much anymore because Rome just took about half of it. Basically this region right in here. And there was a big war between these two guys below me, Volgases III and Osroes I, from 109 to 129 of the current era. And Rome got involved and took over half of Parthia, and then the leader of Rome, this guy named Trajan, subsequently buggers off and dies. And the next emperor is going to be like, well, I think we've expanded ourselves a bit too much. We probably can't hold all of this territory. So the next emperor of Rome is this guy named Hadrian, and he's basically going to sort of let Parthia retake a lot of this territory. He is going to make Armenia independent again, and Parthia is going to get to take over Mesopotamia again. Osroes comes back. He kicks his son off the throne and says, I'm back in charge, bud. But this, of course, just sets us right back into the middle of the big civil war between Volgases and Osroes. That's going to continue for another 12 years. Again, this war runs 20 years civil war, which is really devastating. It's going to kill a lot of innocent people because the big cities are, of course, going to be targets, and sacking a city is always going to kill people that aren't involved in the fighting. This, of course, being a civil war means that every person that dies is going to affect the overall Parthian Empire stability, because when you kill two armies, you're basically, wiping out two of Parthian's armies instead of just, one of the bad guys and one of your own. Going to go for the lurk. Cool, Pyro. It's good to see you, friend. I'm glad that you're doing better. Hope everything works out well. Thanks for so much again for the raid. It's always nice to see you around. So by 129, Volgases is going to manage to push Osroes out of power and take over control of Parthia as a whole. And he is then going to try his absolute best to normalize situations with Rome. Like, look, the guy that did all of that Armenia invading stuff, that wasn't me. He had invaded my own territory and kicked me out too. I still want to be friends. Do you want to be friends? And the Romans were like, as long as you understand that we totally punked you, we'll still be friends. And he was like, yeah, you punked Osroes. Yeah, I know. You took half of our territory. You wrecked our capitals. We are very much aware. Can we just be friends again? You're about half lurk, writing the pros and cons of nuclear power in Thai. Wow. Weird question. You said that you basically lose two armies. At this time was routing the less successful. Assuming that they would maintain the armies. Okay, I'm gonna have to interpret it a little bit here. So the civil war that was going on between Volgases and Osroes was not one where they were leaving people as hostages. Both sides were sort of going at this tooth and nail, and if I beat your army on the field, I was maybe going to give them one chance to come over to my side, and then they're all just going to die. Because there were enough different interest groups inside of Parthia that the factions were fairly heavily divided. There wasn't a lot of gray area in the middle. It wasn't just two guys that were both kind of meh, and most people were just choosing whichever one was, comfortable or closest or most convenient. It really was a pretty big divide between this half of the empire versus this half of the empire. And especially the people inside of Mesopotamia were not really going to turn their backs on Osroes. So there were lots of armies just sort of wiped out, which is not really good internal policy if you're still trying to run an army. We've been visited by a puppy. Oh, hello, puppy. Oh, you look so sleepy. So the puppy might be here taking a nap, but if you all would like to see the puppy, you may summon her if you so desire. All right, so Volgases takes over in 129, and he gets to rule by himself. And he gets to rule by himself for all of about 4 months. He gets to rule by himself for about 4, maybe 5 months before there's another rebellion. And there's the puppy Yes, we shall let slip the puppy of war. That's about of max times you want to rule. All right, let me get the puppy up here. Kaylee, come see me. Come here. Come here. Hey, come here. There's the puppy. Hello. Hello, what you doing? What are you up to? So we had barbecue last night, and when we get barbecue, I really like barbecued ribs. And one of the things that the puppy particularly likes about barbecue is that when I have ribs, she gets rib bones. And yeah, so when I was getting puppy sugars there, I think I detected a hint of rib bone, and I'm wondering if the puppy was rewarded with a special T word. Yes, Kelly is getting through this pandemic with the power of other people's pets. Hey, Techman, good to see you. Puppy allergy is less of a thing today. Yeah, she hasn't been itching very much today. She spent a fair amount of time outside today, too. She was chasing some squirrels in the backyard and just installing the terror of the puppy into their hard drives. Yeah, so she hasn't been as itchy lately. She's been very sleepy lately, and that's partially because it's been so hot. She does not do very well in the heat. She's very much a panting puppy. So, yeah. All right, so Volgases is going to rule for a while, and then there's another guy. There's a guy named Mithridates V that rebels against him, and there's going to be another big civil war. And this is a pretty bad civil war, too. We know that it runs from about 129 to about 140. And that's about all that we know about it. And there's a reason for that. One of the things that happens as civilizations decline and fall into disarray is that their record keeping and their internal systems start to decay. And we don't have a lot of records that come out of this particular civil war. We don't know exactly what sides allied with which ruler. We don't know too terribly much about any of the really big battles that were fought between these two sides, and we really don't know too much about how the war actually proceeded in a sort of a day-to-day term. Most of the history that we have about this period of time actually comes from Roman sources, who are getting stuff secondhand because they're right there on the border with Parthia. Hey, Finesse, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. But do we know who started the fire? We didn't start the fire. It's been burning since the world's been turning. Ryan started the fire, or Jimmy. It's probably Jimmy. So about 140 or so, the war is going to end, and Mithridates V is going to be defeated. And that's really about all that we know about the rest of the reign of Volgases III by himself. We do know that there were other players on the board. Most notably, this guy. This guy is the ruler of the Kushan Empire, and his name is Kanishka. And when Kanishka was ruling, one of Kanishka's things was expanding the Kushan Empire, which sat right in here. And it is very convenient for Kanishka that the Parthian Empire is in such bad disarray, because Kanishka is going to take that opportunity to expand here in this region right here. There's a region right here called Khwarezm that's especially an important region for trade. You can sort of see this little geographical depression, sort of shaped like a little bit of a bean right around in there. That's about where Khwarezm was. So this region right here, as well as some of the cities inside of this region right here called the Tarim Basin, are going to fall under Kanishka's reign. And this is going to cut Parthia's amount of trade down substantially. You want to have the big cities where the trade happens, because you get to pay, or you get taxes paid to you off of the amount of trade that runs through them. So if you lose a city, it's not just the population, it's the tax revenue. So when Kanishka is expanding the Kushan Empire over here, it is very much at the expense of the land, but it's also at the expense of the money. By the way, if we haven't figured it out yet, the entire stream tonight is pretty much going to be Parthia losing territory, which is where we get, I want to hold your land. Because, let's just be honest, everybody wants Parthia, including the Parthians. Oh, the puppy again. Let me call her back. She has subsequently gone to the front. I think I heard her coming. Katie! I think she might be getting water. I think I hear her like... She's such a messy drinker. We have to put her little bowl on a floor mat so that she doesn't create this literal puddle around her water bowl. You can never have too much fluffy animal. You're also a messy drinker. Your cat sounds like that when she grooms herself. There's the puppy. Come and see me again. Come and see me. Yes, you're so popular tonight. Come here. Come here. No, come over here. Hey, come over here. Come over here. Where are you? No, don't get on that. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, you want to come up that way? Come on. Come on. Come on, puppy. There's the puppy again. Oh, yes. Oh, the puppyest. Hello. Hello, you want to give me sugars? Hey. Hey. Well, what are you doing? What are you up to? You're just standing there? Huh? Are you going to give me a woo? Oh. Woof. 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 What? What is it? Did you want some more water? There's some more water up there. Did you need some? There we go. She's a mess. She's just a bunch of spare parts. She's up there arguing with Brittany. She gets very emotive when she wants something. And we tell her to use her words. You would take Parthia, or like just a little house with a small garden in Parthia, or an apartment with a garden on the windowsill, or a castle with a garden. Right, sure. What is messier, the area around the water bowl or Parthia in 140 AD? Shiggy, that's a fair question. Easier to clean up the water bowl. I'll just put it that way. Oh, yes, the puppy of war. Hey, a visual nomad. Good to see you. Good to see you. You relate to that? Just made up some spare parts. Also, your cat. We have a full-on conversations. Yeah. Animals are funny like that. I think that we don't give them enough credit for understanding what we say to them. So, yeah. Anyway, Kanishka. He's expanding. He's taking territory. The Parthians are falling apart like a leper on a treadmill. They are not in good shape right now. So, what are we to do? Well, Volgases is just pretty much in bad shape. And there are going to have to be some steps taken here. So Volgases starts trying to put things back together. There are a few problems. Number one, he doesn't have a lot of soldiers. Number two, he doesn't have enough money to make new armies. And number three, there's still a substantial portion of the empire that hates his guts. What did you do today? Meow. Oh yeah, what happened then? Meow. And what does it... Fair enough, sci-fi. So Volgases is trying to put this stuff back together, and it doesn't work. We know that somewhere around the year 147, the son of Mithridates V, the guy that Volgases III just killed, is going to stage a coup and push Volgases III off the throne, kill him, and then assume the throne as Volgases IV. And he reigns from 147 to 191. So now we're into emperor killing, right? So we've just gone full assassination mode here. And if we look at Volgases IV, we see a little bit of a story here. Well, he's got the big kind of Babylonian beard, but note that he's wearing the kind of the good finery of a good old-fashioned Parthian guy. So yeah. Is he maybe trying to suck up to the country and say, look, please don't try to kill me. I just killed that guy, but I'm going to rule for everybody. I'm going to be a ruler for everyone in the country. Hat's getting a little fancier. I'd give him about a 5.5 to a 6 on that hat. So, yeah, Volgases IV. He's going to be the new king. Volgases IV, new and now. New Volgases, new plans, same old Parthia, right? Yeah. He has a big problem. And the problem is that when he kills Volgases III, all of the people that were on the side of Volgases III are going to try to kill him. So he's got all of these little scuffles popping up in cities, especially out in the east where Volgases III had a lot of support. And he's going to have to be fighting a lot of his own people in these sort of little mini rebellions. This is not a full-out civil war. It's more like trying to put down armed insurrections. And in the mix of that, he's just going to get the idea that once he settles everything inside of Parthia, that he can do whatever he wants to. Like, I have conquered Parthia. I am ruling a unified Parthia. Everybody's lined up behind me. You know what I should do in 161? I should just invade Armenia. Now, if you've been with us, you'll know what happened last time Parthia invaded Armenia and put a new ruler on the throne. So yeah, here we go again, right? Broken record of history. Volgases is going to invade Armenia. He's going to put his son on the throne. And this is going to make the Romans pretty mad. The Romans are going to once again go to war. And so we're going to have a good old-fashioned war with Rome for the years of 161 to 166. Because did we not see that coming? Did we really not put two and two together that the last time we invaded Armenia and then put our people on the throne, they invaded us and sacked our capital cities and wrecked our world? We should do that again. Well, here's the thing. He kind of caught Rome with their togas down. Because not only did he take Armenia and put a fairly decent secured hold on Armenia, he then decides, you know what's right here? The Roman province of Syria. We should just take it. Right? Like Shiggy said, it's right there. So they took Syria. And now Parthia's got a big chunk of territory over here. And this is where Rome decides to counterstrike. So I think what we've learned from the most in history is that no one ever learns from history. That's the lesson to learn from history. Is that people tend to not pay attention to the errors that have been made in the past and then continually repeat those same errors to similar catastrophic conclusions. Right? Are you serious? Yeah, I am. Yeah. So they move in and they take Syria. And they take the big city of Edessa, which is one of the bigger trade cities in the region. And then Volgases has the cheek, nay, dare I say, even the pluck, to send a treaty offer to the Romans and go, hey, Rome, we just kicked your butt. You want to sign this treaty? You can just cede all of this territory that we control and we'll stop invading you. And Rome is like, what? Like, pardon, could you... Did you just dictate terms to us? Because, son, that's not how it goes. You don't dictate terms to Rome. You get the terms dictated to you. And then Rome decides to break them. I will break you, right? And this is pretty bad. Because the Romans not only say, no, we are not taking your peace treaty. Rome says, we're going to come get you. And we're going to come get you bad. So guess what Rome does? Well, Rome comes back. And they move over here. And they retake Syria. And they retake Armenia. And they're like, yeah, we're going to go wreck their capital cities again. So they start invading down in Mesopotamia. And they wreck Seleucia. And then they wreck Ctesiphon. And they sack all of the stuff all over again. And then they're deciding whether or not they just want to go ahead and hold this. Because now, like, Trajan had come in and taken all of this stuff, but the next emperor had given it back. But the guy that's the emperor at this point, a guy named Lucius Verus, is like, if they're going to keep being this easy to defeat, and they're going to cause this much trouble, why not just keep this territory? It's Mesopotamia. It's got huge cities and tons of trade and lots of food. Why don't we just keep this area? And the Romans are pretty clearly thinking about just turning Mesopotamia into a province and holding on to it. And Volgases IV is like, you can't do that. It's my territory. And then they catch a really great break. If you are a Parthian in 166, you have a bit of a cheer, like, yay! And that cheer is because the plague breaks out. That's right. Plague had moved through the Silk Road and moved over here into Mesopotamia. And the Roman soldiers that are occupying Mesopotamia start breaking out in plague. And the Romans are like, okay, time to go. No, the Romans understood what epidemics are. And they understood that they needed to take precautions to stay away from the sick people. And limit their exposure to the deadly plague. So Rome leaves. They're like, okay, look, we're going to make you sign a really horrible treaty that's going to make you give us a big chunk of northern Mesopotamia, but we're going to leave and let you all sit here and die by yourself, basically. And Volgases is like, well, I ain't giving you all anything. And they're like, you're going to give us basically all of northern Mesopotamia, this region right up here, and you're going to give us the big city of Nisibis, which was right about here, which was one of the biggest trade cities in the region. And Volgases IV was like, I don't want to give you that. And Rome's like, it's not really up for discussion. Sign the piece of paper. So Volgases signs the treaty. And then for the next couple of years, plague is going to wreck Parthia. As if they needed any other bad thing to happen, right? Their capital cities have now been busted open twice. They have had, of the last century, they've had just as many years in a civil war as outside of a civil war. It's not been so great for the Parthians. So Volgases IV is going to try his best to hold on. It gets pretty bad for him, though. He is going to face perpetual rebellions for the rest of his reign, which is the next 30-something years. Because, again, this is in 166 when the plague breaks out. He rules until 191. For the next, whatever math that is, he's going to be facing these internal rebellions, these border zones deciding to go to other empires. Maybe they're going to throw in with the Romans. Maybe they're going to throw in with the Kushans. Or maybe they're going to be looking at independence. And one of the regions in particular is going to be this little zone right here. And there's a city right about here that is modern day called Persepolis. In the ancient world, it's called Persis. It's where we actually get the word Persian from. And there are some people living down there from a particular family called the Sasanian, or the Sassanids. And they're going to have a different thought about what to do with Persia. But I'm alluding to something that's going to happen in the next phase. So several streams from now, well into probably a month and a half to 2 months in the future when we get back to Persia, there's going to be a changing of the guard, if you will. And there's going to be a changing of the royal family, too. Things are going to get worse for Persia before it gets better, though, because Parthia is going to fall even further. So Volgases IV is going to hold out until 191, but then he dies. That's what happens when you get old. You die. And in 191, he's going to pass the throne to his son, Volgases V, who rules from 191 to 208. Here's the problem with Parthia at that point. The imperial position, the emperor of Parthia, was no longer the sole ruler that had power in this region. Successfully, right? Oh yeah, he takes over. He takes over successfully. Like Volgases IV dies. He leaves the throne to his son. There's not an immediate challenge. They don't fall immediately into a civil war. But Volgases V, I should show you what he looks like. Bum, ba, da, bum, this guy. And you're like, whoa, well, that's way different because he's looking at us. Yep. This is actually a coin that is much more in the style of the eastern part of the Persian world. And it just so happens that that is becoming the more important part of the Persian world because a lot of the West is now in the hands of the Romans. So Volgases V is kind of trying to suck up to everybody that's over in the eastern part. Here we're talking about areas that would be, like over here on the border with India or Kushan territory over here. He needs your support, the emperor does, because all of this territory over here and a lot of this stuff has been given up. And it's not looking so great. Hey, Moose, good to see you. How did the presentations go? That is some hat. Yeah, he gets fancy hat, hands down. Fancy hat award goes to Volgases V for the night. So, interesting that his beard was asymmetrical. It might just be the coin. I guess it is a little bit slanted. That's probably not meant to be that way on purpose. That's probably just some sort of artistic goof with perspective. Maybe the coin moved a little bit or something, or maybe the die was not particularly as well carved as it needed to be. Went okay. Not as many kids made it because they had to work, but the ones who didn't make it at least had the recordings. Cool. Well, it's good to see that you're getting that good old fashioned knowledge out there to those chillins. All right, so Volgases V, what's the guy to do? Well, he needs to find friends. He needs somebody that he can line up with that's going to help him put the empire back together. And there is a period of time that stretches from 193 to 194 in Roman history that's called the Year of Five Emperors. And if you are aware of how crazy that sounds, you'll know that that means Rome is having internal trouble itself. Well, one of the claimants to the throne is this Roman guy named Pescennius Niger. And he was going to claim the imperial position for a while and convinced Volgases to throw in on his side. Basically like, look, if you help me take over the throne of Rome, I'll give you some of this land back. And Volgases V was like, man, that sounds like an amazing deal. Yeah, let's help get you on the throne. The thing is, Pescennius Niger was not the winner. He was basically the weakest link, and he got flat wrecked by a guy named Septimius Severus. And Septimius Severus was a military leader that did not care for talkback. And in fact, it is frequently dated around this time that the Roman imperial position changes from being more of a prince among equals to a dominate factor that has unlimited, unquestionable power. But he liked the number 7. Yeah, Septimus Severus. Hey, Snowlock Holmes, good to see you. So yeah, the thought here is that Volgases had to pick somebody in the big Roman Civil War, and he threw his lot in with one that was not going to win. And when they did not win, well, Septimius Severus is going to sort of give Volgases the stink eye, if we're looking here at some sort of like international political stink eye, where he basically lets it known that Rome is not going to tolerate Parthia trying to take back this territory. You have lost the territory. You have given it up to Rome because you are defeatable. And if you continue to cause trouble in these border zones, we're going to come get you. Now, the way that Septimius Severus says this is such that it's almost impossible for Volgases V to do anything that looks even the slightest bit like international treaty making. He is effectively trying to set this up where Volgases V is going to do something that is going to make it easier for Rome to invade. Don't make me come back there. I will turn this empire around. Hey, Yvern, good to see you, my friend. I'm sorry, I completely blanked on the fact that you were the one that said, but he liked the number 7. I should have said hello at that point. A little bit slow on the uptake today. So Volgases is kind of stuck. He's like, well, what can I do? Can I make international treaties? Can I communicate with these people? Can we exchange ambassadors? Can I try to talk to some of these people that are on my border to try to get them to come back to the Parthian Empire? What can he do? Well, he can't just sit still. because there are problems along the borders in every direction. There had been barbarian trouble with a group called the Alans, who had invaded and caused a lot of mess in the western part of the territory. There were other groups that were moving along the borders in India and in the Kushan Empire. We're not timing anything. All greetings are accepted all the time. Cool. So Volgases has to try to do something. And he starts trying to convince some of these border lords that they don't really belong with Rome. They really belong with Parthia. Like, come back to the Parthian fold. We're nice. We have cookies. We have cookies. Right? Come back over to our side. We'll treat you better than Rome. We'll give you some tax breaks. We'll let you have a little bit more independent freedom. And Rome finds out. You know, it's impossible for this sort of activity to be done without Rome finding out. So Rome is going to invade a third time. This is Septimius Severus. He's going to invade with a big army in 195. And in 199, the Parthian capitals are going to be sacked for a third time in about 60 years. Rome always finds out. They're like Baskin Robbins, right? You just can't figure it out around them. They're always just going to find you out, right? Have fun storming the castle. Yeah, pretty much. I love cookies. Rome notices, but I can't eat them. So sorry. I'm gluten intolerant. I hate raisins. Whatever the excuse is. Yeah, so Rome is once again going to sack the capital cities. The Parthian Empire at this point is basically just the Iranian plateau. They give up most of this territory up here, and when they sign this treaty with Rome, they are basically going to be forced to pay a yearly indemnity. The Parthians are at a really, really low point. And this is especially going to start making a lot of the regional governors of the Parthian Empire start wondering whether or not it might be better to try to go it alone. But the once great Parthian Empire that at one time controlled this whole region is now going to be left with just this. So Armenia was expanded. The Romans are going to take this big chunk of the northern part of Mesopotamia where these trade cities are. The Kushan Empire had expanded substantially along the border over here. And Parthia is left with not nearly as much power as they had at all. And look, here's Mero and Aksum. We talked about them in last area. We'll talk about these people down here a little bit later on, the Himyarites especially. But yeah, Parthia is pretty weak at this point. They could lay claim to all the empty Arabian desert, right? Shiggy, that's an excellent question. Let's go back over here. And we see this thing right here that's titled Arabia. And we see that it is inhabited by Arabs. Go figure. Oh, what do we got? What do we got? What was that alert? Was that 75% of Middle Earth being raised? Well, thank you, KP. And the rest of the group thanks you. Yeah, so Arabia. Why don't they just go claim Arabia? Well, it turns out that Volgases V did try to do that, as did Volgases IV before him, and even a little bit of Volgases III. The issue is that the people that were living in that region are not in cities. This big region right here is full of nomadic tribal Arabs, which means that they are almost impossible to tie down in one spot. they can always just run away from you. So there's the big joke about, never invade Russia because they can just run away and hide in Russia, and you have to then hold all of Russia, and then it gets wintertime. Well, it's the same sort of thing over here in Arabia, but with summer. Like, if you're going to go run around chasing the Arabians, they can just continue to run away from you, and then it gets summer where it's literally, 125, 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 40-something Celsius, right? It's really bad hot. You can't hold the Arab peoples down. Now, along the border here, especially along the border of the Red Sea, you are going to see some Arab tribes settling down into cities. So if you're familiar with Arabian geography, you'll know that Mecca is right about here and Medina is a little bit further north. But it's mostly, again, along this coastal strip where they have access to water and better weather patterns. So you're going to see some Arab cities over here, but even those are going to be hard to get to because you'd have to go all the way around the northern part of the Syrian desert and then come down south to get to them. You do not attack directly across the desert right here. That is a death sentence for your entire army. People had tried to do it multiple times in history to catastrophic event. It's not doable. So there were Arabs there. There were some trading arrangements between some of the Arab tribes and the Parthians, but there was no formal alliance between any of these Arabs or the Parthians, and the Parthians did not have either the manpower or the desire to try to go into Arabia and hold down this territory. It's that old adage of trying to grip sand, right? It just keeps slipping through your fingers. But still a decent trade route. Okay, so yes, they do still have some trade cities. However, the really, really big trade cities were here, which was in the hand of the Kushan Empire at that point, and here, which was in the hands of the Romans. Now, they had trade coming here off the Persian Gulf, and that was making them a substantial amount of money. There were some cities around this region that were making them some money, but by this point, and this is going to take a little bit of comparison with last week's discussion, by this point, the Kushan Empire had taken over this northern part of India and had begun direct sea trade with Rome. So they were sailing, the Kushans were, across the ocean here and up into the Red Sea to trade in Egyptian or Roman Egypt. So the Kushans had even figured out a way to basically circumvent the Parthians and cut them out a lot of the lucrative trade because, again, the Kushans would love to take that territory. We want to hold your land, right? So there's a little bit of economic warfare going on here where countries are actively making it harder for the Parthians to make money off of trade routes, even though the trade routes are running through this area. Parthia is up Ship's Creek. Yes, they very much are. They are in a bad spot, and they do not have the pieces that they need to put their territory back together again. And this is why, we're talking about the collapse of Parthia, because this is the beginning of the end for them. They do not survive the next century as the Parthians. But that's a spoiler. Part of the dust by this time, probably. Yes. Where in Arabia is Lawrence? Lawrence wasn't even born yet. He would not be born for another. Where are we now? About 1650 or so years. The bodies of the people who tried going through the desert are probably mummified. Yeah, they probably are. And you don't attack through the Arabian Peninsula. It has been tried before, and it was just almost impossible to do. And to give a preview of something many, many states down the way, one of the reasons why it's so surprising that the Arabs expand so quickly when Muhammad and his followers unite the Arab tribes here under the banner of Islam, one of the biggest reasons why the Romans and the, at that point, Sassanid Persians are just completely blindsided is that the Arabs had never been unified before. They had never been a standing solo force. And nobody expected this big army to come storming out of Arabia and wreck Rome and Persia. Of course, Rome and Persia had been basically going at a 14-round heavyweight boxing match where they had beaten each other senseless for the last 200 years. But that's a whole other story for many, well, what is it now? Like about 4 phases down the road when we get to the 600s. But that is going to do it for me for the material for tonight. So if anybody has any questions about this material, I would be happy to answer them. Or if anybody wants to redeem any channel points, now would be a good time to do so. Otherwise, I'll go look to see who we might raid. Yep, but losing your capital city 3 times and getting it sacked 3 times in the span of about 60 years is just bad juju, right? Nobody wants to get invaded that badly. Nobody. Ain't nobody want to get wrecked like that. All right. You were here just on time, huh? Well, you got some of it. Yeah, we do start at 1900 Central Standard Time, so we've been going now for about an hour and 37 minutes. I'm trying to see who might be around. Let me look at the raid list to see where we might also be going. Let's see first though. Can we go? Let's go to browse. No, I can't do 1900 every day, Shiggy. I would be completely and utterly burned out. 1900 every Thursday, and 1900 every other Tuesday usually. Now, I will say, as a heads up, I am taking next week off. I am taking next week off for 2 big reasons. Number 1, I want to have an actual bit of summer. And number 2, next week will be the first week that I have had in about 2 years where I have not had schoolwork that I need to do. So I'm going to enjoy not having stuff to do. Do I still teach at school? I do. So the school year is coming up pretty soon. I start teaching the week of August the 16th. I'll be back at work. So I do want to have that week off. Hey, Amir Berzini. Good to see you. Let's see who's streaming under the educational channel. And see what we might see. We find good people when we do this sometimes. We found Aristotle last week, and that was great. Critter Vision. We could go read Critter Vision. I don't think I want to raid Critter Vision. I don't think a lot of these people are using educational the right way. All right, how about this? Let me see. Yeah. It has been a long time. Yeah, so let's just go raid our good friend Pink Epoxy. For those of you that are unaware, Pink Epoxy is a painter who does lots of portraits, but also other things on stream. You'll be done on the 25th and headed home on the 31st. Cool. Can you just zoom instead? No, I can't. And well, I was a student until today. Well, hopefully until today. I feel like I don't know what's going to happen now that I don't have a grad program. It's going to feel very weird. How are they using the educational stuff? They are using the educational session mostly to teach people how to play video games. That is how most people apparently use the educational channel. You found a stream earlier that shows videos from the International Space Station. That was pretty cool. Neat, but not really worth rating because you don't think a person runs it. Yeah, pretty sure. Well, actually, let me see if paleontologizing is on. No, they are not on. Okay, so there is a channel called Paleontologizing that I want to raid eventually, who's basically a paleontologist who streams and talks dinosaurs and stuff like that. So that would be a cool thing that I think would be educational and have fun rating. But Pinky has rated us several times. She's a good streamer. She's got a lot of great energy in her chat. So we're going to go raid Pink Epoxy, who is a delightful streamer. Please make sure that you show Pinky some love. Our battle cry as we go in is adventure. And if you have those lovely adventure hat emotes, you can throw those into the chat as well. If you want to hop on the Discord, we do talk there. There's something that happens just about every day where we get into a little bit of a discussion. There's places there to post questions if you have historical questions that you want to ask about. I'd check that many, many times a day. Also, I have a running list of episodes that are coming up. So if you want to know when we will be having the next episode, you can check there. The next ones are not going to be next week. They will be the subsequent week, which is going to be, let me see the dates here. Our next stream is going to be Tuesday the 13th. And we will be doing a viewer request stream on eschatology, which is the study of how people think the world is going to end. So the end of the world as we know it. That's what we'll be talking about. So that's Tuesday, August the 10th. Tuesday, August 10th. All right. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and hit this magical start raid button. Thank you all so very much again, as always, for hanging out. I hope you all have a great day, night, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I might be around sometime this weekend, and I might be around next week doing some model building stuff. But that's going to not be at a given time. It'll be sort of whenever I feel like it. So keep your eyeball on the Discord for that, and I'll let you all know. Otherwise, have a great one. Hope you all are feeling great, having a great one, and I will see you all next time around on Tuesday, August the 10th for viewer request stream. All right? Take it easy.